Yes, welcome back to Software Engineering Lecture 4. Last week we talked about front end and the tools and how it works. So today we will continue from where we stopped. This program is powered by No Big Deal, organized by Rahim. Today, our goals of this class is to understand the basic of JavaScript, learn how to use variable functions and events. Then we build two small projects, calculator and a to-do list. And then you will be able to read and write simple JavaScript code. JavaScript is a programming language used to add live and interactive to web page. We have talked about HTML, CSS. So now we want to talk about the brain and the movement of the website. Brief discussion on HTML. We said HTML is a structural language that structures our content, and CSS, cascading styles it, make it look nice. And while the JavaScript lets you do things like clicking a buttons and show results. So let's look at this. Let's look at it like this. HTML is the body. That's what creates the body. And the CSS is the clothes. And that's the appearance. And the JavaScript, that's the brain and the movement that make everything look functional. Variable. In JavaScript, you'll be talking about variables. Variables is very, very important. What is variable? Variable is like a container that holds some things. It can be of number, name, or any data. In JavaScript, we use let as variable. The let variable that you are seeing on the screen is a keyword we use to create a variable. So it's just like when you want to create a folder on your desktop, you need to right click. So this one too is when you want to create a variable, we need to put this keyword let. Then the name that follows it, I'm reading the first code now. The name that follows it, this is the name of the variable. It's just like when you create a folder, you name it. So the name that we give to our variable is name. And then the Rahim there, it is the value that is assigned to that variable names. And this value, it is called a string of text. You can change it to anything that you want. You can change it to Ahmed, you can change it to Bimbo. So it's just letting you know that anything that we put in quote is a string, and it will appear the same way you write it in your code. Then the second variable here is age. So this particular variable, it is used to store number. And the last one too, we use it to store number. So let's talk about function. Function tells JavaScript that we are defining a function. Function is a group of instructions that do something when you call them. Function, you can reuse a function over and over again. What do I mean? In a code, you can only write one function, then whenever you want to make reference to it in any part of your code, you can easily call the name and it will answer you. That is only the difference between function and variables. It looks the same thing, but If you want to use variable, you need to be declaring all the times. But under function, you can have many things. Under function, like you want to perform arithmetics, you can just create a function for all arithmetic, like addition, subtraction, and when you want to use it, you just call the name and it will do. That is, we use it to group. That is a group of instructions. What do we mean by instruction? Instruction, they are command. Let's say they are functions. Instruction too, they are functions. We have many, like when they instruct you to do something, that is how function works. Like control P now is a functions that do print. So that's how we have some other functions in the programming. So if you want to use a function in your code, you put function. Function is a keyword, just like the one that we say let. That is when we want to create a variable. Function tells JavaScript that we are defining a function. It lets the JavaScript to know that we want to use function. And that say function, that is say hello, that is the name of the function. Anything you create, you name it. That is the way we create. That is why we create a folder and we name it. It is used for easy identification. You can easily try to remember the name of the function that in case you want to use it later. Then another thing here is alert. Alert. This particular alert, it allows us to pop up a message box. So when you run this particular code now and you call the name of the function, you cannot just run it like this, it won't answer you. It's just like when you just give birth, you give the person's name, you give it name, and you did not call the name and you want it to answer. It won't answer. So you have to call this particular function before it answers. If you want to call this particular option, you just write say hello with this open bracket and close under the curly brace. It will display alert hello world. Then we have another thing here, events. Events is very, very important too in JavaScript. So it happens this way: when you click a button and you want it to say something, or you want it to just perform some functions, then you create an event. JavaScript events allow you to know when something happened by clicking or by typing. For example, you click on back, JavaScript can pop up and say you want to exit this particular page. So it's the work of JavaScript. So let's look at this code. Button on click say hello. Say hello is a function that we call here. So before you can use event, you need to create a function called say hello. Just like the way we create a function that pop up hello world. So this one too, if you want to make sure that when you click on say hello button, you want it to display click me. You might have created a function that does that. Then you are now calling it with a button. So when you click on that say hello now, it will now pop up and say click me. So this is an event. It normally happens when we are hovering to a button on the browser. So we have just two takeaway projects for us before we continue our class. The first one is we should create two input boxes for numbers because we want to do some addition in a calculator. Then we will now create one button again, and then we will now leave a paragraph to show the result when we do 1 plus 1. So this is how the code looks like. If you remember, we were told to create an input type, an input where we can type something. That is why we are saying input type 2. So input type 1, we try to enter the first number. Input type 2, we try to enter the second number. And a button that when we click on add, it will add. We created this button here. This particular code here, if you run it, it will not do anything because you have not yet put a function to it. So we have to create a function called add, so that when we click on this add in our HTML page, it will read from this place and display and add, and then display the answer for us. That is why you are seeing the function add here, and we are calling it here. So that when we click on this add, it will look for this add, then call the other function, then perform whatever they ask it to do here. So this first of line of code, we try to get the value that we enter to this number 1. That is why you are seeing let A, that is whatever value that they enter inside that first colon, it will now store here. It will help us to hold it. Let me read it out. Let A go and get this particular document that is called ID num1. So it will now locate where it is ID num1 and pick the values and store it here. That is the work of this one. Then the second value here, let B, that is go and help me get the value, and then when you get the value that is ID num2, that is this one, help me and store the value inside here. So if I type 2 now in the first one, it will store here. If I type 2 in the second one, it will store in the B. So now I want this particular something. Now I want to use the particular number that I store in A and B. Now I want it to do something for me. That is the essence of this code. I now say let result equal to num A. That is, whatever result I have, whatever num A, num B I have, I want it to save under my result. Let it to be num A plus num B. So this is A, this is B. So help me and save it inside this result. So now the last code here is that document.getElement by ID result. That is, whatever value that is inside this result, help me and get it. Then help me and display it in the inside text. That is why we say we'll create a space. So help me and display inside text, that is equal to answer. That means it will now be showing as if you write answer plus result. This plus result will display whatever that is inside this num A, num B, so that when they add it, the result will now come inside. It will now add it and bring it inside this result. I hope you understand what I'm trying to explain. What I'm trying to explain is that you need to have HTML, because JavaScript and HTML works together. So you create your HTML. Yeah, there's something like you are trying to create a form that you can enter the first number and the second number. Then you now create a button that when you click on that button, it will now do something. So when you click on that button, now it will now locate where this particular function has already been stated, then do something and add it. So let's briefly look at the other project, which is a to-do list. This app lets users type a task and add it to a list. This time around, where something is at high side, you cannot just go to the market and start buying things. You need to do some things, like write out what you need, the price, or you just write out all what you need. so that when you go to market, you not get confused. So like me now, when I just go to market, if I'm not planned, I will start buying. At the end of the day, I will just come back without even buying what I expected of me to buy. So that is the essence of this to-do list app. So this to-do list app lets users to type a task. You type in all your tasks that you want to do today. So when you now type your tasks, after you finish typing, after you finish buying one particular product, then you can click on it and delete it so that you not repeat it. So that is how this app helps us. Instead of us to be using paper and pen, you can just use your phone when you have the app on your phone. So it's very, very essential. Then see how we write out the code. See how we write out the code. The first thing we did is that we have to create a form that we can input the text, all those things that we want to type, all those things that we want to buy. We create the first step, we create the first text. Then the other form that we do, we now create a button so that when we click on add, it will help us to add to the list. So this first code indicates that we create a form called text, and this one will create another button called add tags. Then we now created a space so that when we click on add tags, it will have some space under that our product or whatever we want to buy will come down. So we now write a JavaScript code that we allows this thing to function. So this is the code here. We created a function because what we want to do is a function. We want our app to perform some functions. That is why we are creating a function. So we create this function add tags. If you notice, when we click on a button on click, we put add tags. The add tags must be the same name with the function that you are creating. So in the add tags, we are having some tags that whenever we click on these tags, help us to do this something. So that is why we are saying let tags to go and get the document element by ID called tags input. So it will go back and get the text that we put under our tags input, all the values that is there. Then the other one, after it got all the value, it will now save it in the tags. Then the other one is a let list. That is document.getElement by ID tag list. So every ID that is called tag list, it will now store under the let. So what do we want to do after we have gotten all these values stored under tags and links? So we want it to be in a list format. That is why we are saying let li equal to document.createElement by li. So in the case that you are trying to enter multiple values, it will be creating some list. And the list we are using here is on order list. So it will be in form of bullet. So then we now create the second code here is saying is creating a parent that whenever we click, it should be helping us to be able to repeat some other tags that we put under. That is why you are seeing list.append child. Append child allows us to be able to add more items. So that is how this one works. Then at the end of the day, you'll be able to see all the values that you added. We only perform only one function here, but if you are cool and you wanted to add more functions, you can join us by adding delete button, so that when you are done, you want to delete the task that you have already performed, you can just click on delete button. So we have another thing here that we need to talk on before we call it a day. There's something we call if condition. If else, else if, all those things, they are conditional statements. So conditional statements, they are mostly used when you have to choose between two options. So it is very important. It is mostly important when we are talking about school results, that if this particular person did not meet the score, put F9, or if he doesn't meet the score, repeat class. So I don't know whether you have seen something like that before. So it's a kind of a program that let's see the example on the screen. This particular one is saying if S. So if you did not do this, S, do this. So if we look at it now, it's trying to compare score that is greater than 50 and consider it a pass mark. And then if it doesn't meet up with the pass mark, then it's trying to tell you to try again. This particular thing, we can equally use it for game. So when they give you some tasks and it's based on conditional statement, you can use if statement. This particular one cannot work like this. You cannot see the beautiful outcome except if you use HTML, so that at least you have screen where you can enter the score, and then when you enter the score, if the score is low compared to the pass mark, then it will tell you you can try again. But if you run this one in any JavaScript, this thing, it will run. But if you want to be seeing it and be seeing it on the screen, like using your Google Chrome to run it, you have to use form, so that you can create a form for it and link it with your function. So another thing that we need to talk about is loop. Loop is a repetitive. Let me just use it as a repetitive command. This looping is basically used when you want to do timer. All this clock that we do, that you want it to be counting, or you want for example, they ask you to display your name 10 times using one code. So you can use looping. So let me just explain the one that is on the screen. This particular code will let you to loop. It will help you to loop up to 1 to 5. So that is what they want the person to do. That is why they put 4. Let my I equal to 1. That means you should start the looping from 1. Then the first one is now asking you that if I is less than or equal to 5, then iterate. So iterate is I plus plus. What does it mean? That if I is less than or equal to 5, so definitely this particular I, because I is equal to 1, is less than 5. So this particular thing will now repeat 1 on the screen. You can run it and see the way it looks before our practical. Then the console.log is working like alert and is working like document.write. But the difference between this one is basically used for normal JavaScript. Maybe you are just practicing only JavaScript, you are not using HTML for it. That's why they are using console.log. So, and this particular one can be run normal on your console. So that's why they are using console here. You can use document.write if you are try to run it with HTML. So number plus I means that it will keep on doing number plus I till it meet this particular condition. So from what I'm seeing here now, it will now loop 1. When it's coming back, every time it display the answer, it will now go back and check the condition again. So if it's coming back now, it's trying to check like let I equal to 1. So definitely this I now is no longer be 1 again, to be 2. It will keep on iterating because we use I plus plus. So if it's coming back and print 1, if it's going back, it will come back and print 2 and it will replace it as 2. If it's going back, it will replace it as 3 till it counts to 5. The same thing like while loop, but the while loop is more different. It will display the result before it iterates. That is only the difference. If you look at it, the num plus plus is the same thing with I plus plus, but the num plus plus is the last thing they do here. So it will first it will first perform the function first before it now repeats. So you can try to run your code. Let's see if you are having any small issue. Let's see how we can help you. Then after you have already made some practice, you have already read some notes, you have already gone through your video, at the end of the day, you are encouraged or you are advised to do 2 of this project so that you get familiar to it. The projects are the currency converter, expense tracker, age calculator, simple countdown timer. So those are the practical I will advise you to try out first before we now meet in our practical class. Now we come to the end of lecture 4. So thank you for your time and everything.